right here. All right, so it's recording. Let me do like a formal introduction for our listeners. Good morning, well, good afternoon for you guys. My name is Claudia. I'm calling you from Washington, D.C., from the studios in Fairfax City. We're very humble and grateful that Airsculpture accepted our invitation to our show. Guys, welcome to the show.
Hi.
Great to be here.
Thank you very much.
And so for people that don't know you guys, feel free to, do a 1 minute, 2 minute introduction, whoever wanna pitch in, either Adrian or Pete, or who you guys are, where you live, and blah, blah, blah.
Who wants to go first?
Yeah.
Go on, you go first since you're talking.
This is always a problem when we play as well.
Okay.
I'm Pete. Yes, we've been together for quite some time now. We should have had a 25th anniversary concert really at some point, but I don't think that quite panned out. I live in Reading, where Adrian and John both lived. Well, Adrian used to live, John still does live here. And yeah, I've been playing with Airsculpture for quite a while. I'm actually a software engineer by trade, so that's my day job. I don't give up my day job for music. It's pure fun. It's something.
The starving would be a problem.
Yeah,
right.
And it's what allows me to buy all the lovely toys to make noises and play with the band and play on my own as well.
Gotcha. What about you, JC?
So John for full or for half a full. I mean we've all shared a similar interest and direction in music. We've known each other for a long time. We went to university together and have hung around and played a little together and just listened to music together, and eventually we got together and formed this band. And it's around ideas which we all are very, very similar thinking about. So we love the improvisation, we love there's the kind of sounds of sequences, but also the abstractions, and this all really came together in the early 90s. We went to a concert and there was good music there, but all the music was the same. It was really safe. It was someone would come along and they'd put on a DAT machine and they would play a complicated composed background and they'd play some little chords and a nice little melody. And some people working in that way produced some really great music, but we looked back at a little bit earlier in the 70s and the 80s where bands like Tangerine Dream were out there improvising, producing some brilliant music and also some terrible music, but you never knew what you get at a night. It's just all edgy and interesting and atmospheric, and nobody else was doing it. So we decided we'd do it. Other people were having similar thoughts. So bands like RMI and Redshift popped up around the same time, and really the whole central gravity moved about the time we started. But we were the vanguard of that shift, and I think we're still the ones who are doing it most. Whenever we go on stage, it's completely improvised. At the most, we'd have talked about a shape of what we're going to do. We just get on, we play, and take that risk, and having great fun doing it after all these years.
And then Adrian, I already talked to him, so I know his life. 25 years, man. It's more than that's a couple of marriages for people,
Yeah. So you could say we've got 75 years experience between us in.
That's right. Yeah.
That's how they usually say it, isn't it?
You could use that lie. Yes.
Yeah. So I was telling Adrian that about I have a big music collection, but not just electronic music, pop, rock, and about October or so, about 5-6 months ago, I started to open an online radio station, soft rock. It did well. Now I open a jazz and rock type of radio, and then I began doing interviews, and now I have done 6 or so, and then I opened another radio station, an electronic music one, and it has been good. Talking to people. I have now over 1,000 listeners all over the world, and it's growing little by little. And like you, Pete, I'm a software engineer too. Music is my passion. I do this stuff because I buy music anyways, right? And I've been buying music, for a long time. And I'm putting this online stuff for now for free, 24 hours a day, no advertising, nothing. And then have been fun, to do it. And maybe one day I will sell it, or I have no idea. But for now, I spent a long time at the beginning, taking CDs and vinyl, uploading to a website where I broadcast music, but have been very, very fun, man. And so that have been good. So this has been a very weird for everybody all over the world. So how you guys, how's your sanity? How you manage your life? You cannot see one another. Are you guys composing at home? Each one of you have like a little studio where you can do stuff and then send them to one another. How is that working out?
Well, I think as a band, it's not been very good for us. I think I listened to Adrian's interview just before we came on, and as he was saying, we've managed to get a piece together in lieu of playing the gatherings this year, which is a real shame, or last year rather. But individually, for me anyway, it's actually been quite positive. Even though there was a negative aspect to it, which was I actually got made redundant at one point, that allowed me some time to get my head together and sort of sort out a process which I'd never really done before, and actually produce an album, which was amazing. I didn't think I'd ever. The other guys have got loads of experience and they've got albums out and all sorts of stuff, and I just thought I'll never do it, but I did. And as a result of that, I've actually flourished during this time individually, but as a band, it's I have to say it's not been brilliant. It's even difficult to just get together and have a chat sometimes. So although Adrian's organised some good chats with the RMI guys and Ian and a few other people, which have been good fun. But musically, it's not been the best for Airsculpture, I don't think.
No, I mean that's really just because of what we do. It's not amenable to working remotely, and
exactly.
When we're playing together, we fire off each other. We're not used to coming up with preconceived ideas, and if we did, it's not really Airsculpture. The piece we recorded, I think, has worked really well, and we're keen on releasing it. And it's only laziness that's stopped us getting it out there now. But it was torture doing that, really, and it's just not natural for us. I've been saying I've been making music by myself, but it's a different kind of music. What I do with the band is, it's not many miles away, but just the way your mind works, the music that comes out is totally different. And I miss doing the band stuff.
And then during this year, you guys didn't do like a live streaming at all, where the three of you connect into a camera and then put something together? No, some bands did that because they needed money, right? So
it's really hard to do it collectively, and it depends on the kind of music you're making. If you're making ambient music, you might get away with it, but finding a reliable solution that allows you to play in time, particularly if you're doing rhythmic music, it's not straightforward. And combination of the technical problems and laziness means we never got to the bottom of it. Even solo, I've been doing some work. I've finally got around to videoing some stuff, and the next step is to try and do that as a live stream. But even that was quite painful. You just find yourself up against weird things like, okay, I've got one computer that's good enough to do that recording in a good enough quality, and will that be good enough for live streaming? Well, it depends on the internet connection. But of course, I want that computer to be available for doing music making as well, because the best computer is always your music computer. So it's tricky. I'm hoping I'll get as far as doing some live streaming before the lockdown ends.
You'll just be ready by the time we're all out there.
Yeah. 1, 2, 3. Oh God, we're out.
And then you mentioned, I think John mentioned Adrian, the band, our music when we go to play live, kind of 90% is improvised. We have an idea what we want to do, but how does it work? How one start and then give the cues to somebody else? Well, this is getting too long. Okay, you are closing with the keyboard or with sequencing. How the communication happen on stage when it's
Yeah, we do that. We do exactly that. We do it visually. So you have to the position, the way we set ourselves up. We have to set ourselves up so that we can see each other. That's important. And sometimes we've not done that very well, and so we haven't been able to communicate visually. And even getting to the point, some of the early days in Holland, a place like that, we just screw up a bit of paper and throw it at each other, try and get our attention.
Yeah.
And I think I brought along a little guns at some point. We were going to firing pellets at each other.
Nerf guns. We had Nerf guns.
Yeah, that's right. Nerf guns, yeah. And
I mean, there has been times when I've had to get up and walk across the stage and slap somebody. So you try doing something, got into headphones is worse.
Yeah.
And this is too long. I'm going to have to do violence.
Yeah. So we have to do that. We have to do it that way. But it works. I mean, we've got such a 25 years of experience of listening to what we're doing and getting an idea of the fact that it needs to move on, or it's been too long in this place, or it's I don't know, something's too loud or whatever. So we do have a way of communicating visually, but that's again another reason why doing it online is more tricky to do, because we probably wouldn't be able to necessarily watch each other and also do the same thing, the music at the same time. So
yeah, and I mean, I think in the past you've heard me play "I am bored of this" chords. It's amazing. Yeah. You can make sounds that say this is tedious and move on.
Yeah, you can make the closing sounds. The sounds like it's finishing now. That kind of sound, and we would go, oh, hang on, I've heard that before. Oh, I know what that means.
Yeah.
That means okay.
Also,
Go ahead.
At the start, when we were first got together, we actually used to practice quite often. We used to practice pretty much regularly once a month, if not more often sometimes. And I think that really stood us in good stead for learning what we do as individuals in the band. And because of that, we sort of, after a few years of doing that, you become accustomed to what is expected and what people are going to do. So that helps a lot as well. So it is, we laugh about our experience and said, 75 years of experience, but actually that does play a role in what we do as well.
Yeah. Any of you were born, I mean, why electronic music? I know the guys met at the university after high school, the equivalent of high school here. And then any of you came from musical families, or any, your dad, brother, or any musician, or you?
No, my family has musicians going a little bit further aside. So one of my uncles was in a Merseybeat band called the Swinging Blue Jeans, who, I don't know if they made it to the States, but they were very famous over here for a little time in the 60s. Although I think he actually left just before they got famous. But, he knows all the people from that Beatles era. Well, he's dead now, unfortunately. He died a couple of years ago. But he was completely in with all of the Merseybeat crowd. And that side of the family, there's a lot of people who are in bands. But yeah, my immediate family, no real interest at all, apart from listening to it.
So you guys met at the university? Yeah, go ahead, Peter. Sorry.
No, I was going to say no. I don't. My family's not musical at all, really. So, some people would say I'm not musical either.
Yeah, only us.
But yeah, go ahead.
We met as a kind of pyramid, because Adrian and I, we moved into rooms just opposite each other. Pete and Adrian ended up being in or part of, associated with a college band, and Pete and I were on the same course, so we just kind of came in from all angles.
Yeah, all kind of connected, isn't it?
And you guys get along right away from the beginning, or
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was quite an experience going to university, moving out of home and just turning up in a, suddenly you're dumped in with a load of people you don't know. And then, on day of arrival, got all my gear in and just put some music on, and lo and behold, I could hear Tangerine Dream across the corridor. I was thinking, what's that? How come somebody else is playing that? So I put on a bit of Klaus Schulze or something like that. And then eventually, I think in the end, I went and sort of knocked on John's door and said, what's that then? And
it was worse than that. I'd heard you playing TD or Schultz to, it must be TD, to someone else. And I was so shy that I just went back and put some TD on myself and turned the volume up and waited.
Yeah, Tangerine Dream, we were talking about the first, I don't know, 10 years of Tangerine Dream were great, in my opinion, right? So I'm not a critic, I just like music like you guys. And then they began doing a lot of soundtracks, and then releasing very bad stuff in the last 15 years. Maybe they needed the money, I don't know what they do, but it's not.
They stopped being young and hungry.
In a way,
we're not young, but we're still hungry.
Almost their best time is now, because we're getting to see some of the really good stuff starting to appear from the old days.
Yeah.
I mean, probably the first 4 albums were great. And so at the time, what kind of music you guys listening to? Manuel Goshin or Klaus Schulze, Tangerine Dream, all these people. Any favorite, one way or another?
Yeah, I mean,
of course,
the least broad range. Once I got myself homed in on the electronic music, it was all electronic music. I didn't have any real interest in anything other than that. I didn't listen to much in the way of rock or anything like that. I did have and I think Pete shares an interest in Gary Newman. We're both big Gary Newman fans. Depeche Mode was another of the big favourites of mine at the time, although back then that was the really poppy Vince Clarke version of them, but they quickly changed. So I never really lost that connection with Depeche Mode and Gary Newman. But other than that, my taste is very narrow, whereas John's taste is very broad. And
but they didn't used to be. But the time we met, I was the same. I was just electronic music and a few odd outlying things like Hawkwind and Jethro Tull that I somehow got interested in, but mostly I didn't like vocal music, and very, very narrow range. Rush I was quite into at the time, but that was probably getting to the limits. Pink Floyd, maybe. Things have broadened over time a lot, which is good. I love the fact that, because even though I lived through the 70s and theoretically had all these opportunities to go to amazing gigs when I was a bit too young, I just wasn't interested. But I love the fact now there's so much music in the times behind us. I keep finding bands from the 60s, the 70s, the 80s that I've never heard before. It's just this huge, amazing array of music that comes to you almost as new. And for a long time, I didn't listen to Pink Floyd's Animals because I don't really like, or didn't like, The Wall. It's kind of grown on me a few tracks, but the Roger Waters end I didn't like it. I thought Animals was the first Roger Waters album. I never listened to it. And I suddenly found it properly. It's probably about 15 years ago now. But I have this experience of hearing a brand new Pink Floyd album from their height, and it was wonderful.
Because I'm the odd one out then, because my back then my musical tastes were wide, very wide, but they didn't include Tangerine Dream or Klaus Schulze. So I was into things like Jean-Michel Jarre, Vangelis, but then I also liked Queen, I liked ABBA, I still like ABBA.
ABBA are great.
So yeah, I was very much more into the melodic side of things. And it wasn't until
what went wrong?
It wasn't until I bumped into Adrian and he played me some Klaus Schulze, and I thought, wow, this is really good stuff. And I borrowed some of his albums, I think, while I was at university, and just turn the lights off, get drunk, turn the lights off, put it on loud, and that would be it. I just drift off, and that kind of changed my view. And I got much more into the sort of more repetitive style that we sort of the Berlin School, I suppose, is the way to describe it. So I sort of came from the other direction. So yeah, it's an interesting mix.
For me, like I was telling Adrian a couple of weeks ago, I have a wide range. So electronic music is only a part of me. I like rock, I like pop, right? So you guys are British, you know, in my opinion, right, the best three groups, according to Claudio, right, in the history of music are Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, and Genesis with Peter Gabriel, right?
Mhm.
Those three, you know. But I like Blondie, I like Pat Benatar, I like Coldplay, you know, ABBA, the Depeche Mode, and so on and so forth, many other bands. But those three bands for me, they're the way
That's a pretty.
the way up there. I mean,
Although I finally came to the conclusion I actually like Genesis more after Gabriel left. It's unfortunate, but those, especially the earlier stuff after he left, is just so good.
oh, absolutely.
It's pop, but it's got depth. It's amazing.
So yeah, but yeah, those are great items. You remember the first? Well, I think you know, Adrian might have answered whatever. The first vinyl that you guys bought on your own, they were electronic music, or were different things?
Yeah, I think my first one was, I think it was Mike Oldfield, actually. I think that was the first thing I bought, and you know, that was back then. Well, I didn't really have very much money, so buying albums was quite a big jump, really. So I think I bought the single Guilty. I remember that one, and then that led to, I think I bought oh gosh, what was it, Cars, Gary Newman, that came after that, and then after that I started to get into albums, and I didn't buy singles after that, so it was just it. That was a lead in. It was Jean-Michel Jarre, and then yeah, so I got both the Jarre albums at the time, Oxygen and Equinox, and then that's when TD arrived, because I was playing I think an Equinox on the college record player, and this bloke walked in and said, "Oh, if you like that, you'll like Tangerine Dream." Oh, I never heard of them. Went down to Boots and found, sure enough, one album by them at the time, which was Force Majeure, and so I bought that, and then that sort of trickled on from there.
I don't think Boots translates, but Boots is a pharmacy, and it's such a strange idea that you'd go and buy electronic music records from a pharmacy, but those are the days.
Yeah, mine was definitely not electronic. My first album was an ABBA album, strangely enough. Yeah. So yeah, no, but that was swiftly followed by people like Mike Oldfield, Pink Floyd, Jean-Michel Jarre. Yeah, I sort of soon drifted into that, and Queen. Those were sort of the first ones that I really tackled. But yeah, ABBA was my first album. Still got it. Greatest hits.
My first album was a thing called Solid Gold on EMI. And it had Little Michael Jackson, and it had, I can't remember what else it was. There was a couple of songs that I liked, and I realized I could buy this album for not much more than the price of a single, and it was terrible. And I've had this short phase where I was into, I think these bands made it to the States. There was The Sweet and Susie Quattro. And I think I look back at the Sweet with not too much embarrassment, but Susie Quattro, maybe not so. But then I had this thing, I just got bored of music, and I think I like those because I was supposed to like music, and peer pressure. And I just completely lost interest. I had a cassette and the cassette player, and the only thing that I'd play on it was recordings of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And yeah, it was, and then just suddenly fell into this electronic music world. I don't know why, I must have again been feeling peer pressure, and I wanted to like some music, and someone said, "Oh, you should try so and so." I think it was Jarre actually. You should try Jean-Michel Jarre. You'd like that. I found a friend, because we were all poor. I found a friend whose brother had a big record collection, and he was going to tape this thing for me. But he was also useless, so I'd spend days, weeks, months going round to his house to see if he'd done this tape yet, and he hadn't. But I'd go and listen to the rest of his brother's record collection, and I mean, this guy was into all the good stuff from the 70s. A lot of things, not just pure electronic music, but a lot of those more interesting proggy or orchestrally bands I picked up from Chris's record collection. But thank God for useless friends.
Yeah, you guys mentioned, Klaus Schulze is not in very good health nowadays. I through the people that I have interviewed, I wanted to get a hold of him, and he's now doing some well.
Yeah, he burned brightly. I think
Huh?
I think he was the light that burned brightly. I think he lived a very good life in the 70s.
Yeah, yeah. I never,
But, yeah,
of course, I never seen him live either, and I wanted to have an interview, but I don't know, maybe we'll never have it.
I think that's unlikely.
He doesn't talk
I
to any.
don't know quite how ill he is, but he's certainly too ill to play concerts, which is sad in its own right.
The other guy that I really like to meet is Manuel Goshin. Of course,
yeah.
you know him. Yeah, I'm going. Hopefully, be talking to him a couple of weeks from now, and he's a very good person. I like his personality, and Peter Bauman also is a very famous guy that he lives now here in the United States, but it's hard to get a hold of the guy. You know,
Yeah.
Some people are easier to get a hold of that, but some of them are not. So, how you guys? So where the name came from, Airsculpture?
Well, that was me. I'm the wordy one of the group, and I actually I don't remember the thought process, but I found at one point a note in the back of a notebook. And at that time, this was obviously before the band had formed, and I was thinking about could I get some friends together and do a shared album, because doing one by myself is too much to think of, but yeah, maybe do a 3 people shared CD. And I was doodling ideas for this, and this note said Airsculpture, pretentious name for album brackets. So yeah, it kind of but originally the very first thing to be called Airsculpture wasn't these 2 guys. I'd been working on some software to do a software sequencer, because at the time it was very hard to find sequencers that would let you play them. They were just things like Cubase where you put in compositions and they play them back. So I'd written this thing called Improvision, which was aimed to allow live playing. And I took my first prototype back to my original home when I went back for Christmas, and hooked up with a couple of friends, and we recorded something using it, just a jam session, and stuck for a name, called it Airsculpture. And so that one, I mean, if the cassette's still around, it must be worth a fortune by now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And then we got, I don't think it was ever a choice. When we got together, it was just people started talking about this other Airsculpture thing, because improvised things that we race around improvision were Airsculpture, and we couldn't think of a better name, so it stuck.
Is it?
And I think it works. It describes what we do in a nice way. I later discovered that Frank Zappa had used the same phrase, which was kind of nice, but I didn't copy him. That was coincidence.
I got you. Is the equipment that you guys use, you have the same equipment over the years, or you need to upgrade it, or keep more money?
You don't need to, but you just do.
Yeah, so we've never had the same gear. There's always been differences between the gear that we've had, so we've never sort of repeated very much at all. There's not that much gear between us that's common. I think John and Pete may have a few more things that have shared, but for example, I've never had any Roland equipment. So whereas John and Pete both had JD800s and MKSs and various things, but also we typically, every time we play, whenever we get together, there's always new stuff. So something's gone out, something's come in, so it's always changing. So because we basically settled into a formula, which is we play a live gig, we do the recording of that becomes the album, because we weren't able to get together to be able to record stuff just for the sake of recording, because we're rubbish and various other things. So what happened was we would usually do what we would call a rehearsal, but it's really a case, plug everything together, see if it works before we do the gig. So that's what we call a rehearsal. It's not rehearsing the music, it's trying to almost rehearse the plug and connections and everything. And of course that invariably is a nightmare. Things don't work, stuff doesn't go into time, and all sorts of other problems. So always we've got something, and many things often have changed from one session to the next session. It's just like a constant flow of change.
But I mean, we figured out some ways to streamline this. Like one thing we did early on was we all had a similar model of drum machine. So we'd all set ourselves up so we were taking timing information from one of those drum machines. So then when we got together, we could use one and all take the timing off it, and you could pretty much guarantee that timing would be okay. And over the years, we seem to have forgotten all the lessons we've learned and abandoned that sort of simplicity. But yeah, it worked.
Yeah, well, I mean, actually, early on, we bought into rack systems. So John and I, when we did the first performance, we did our first get together. We hired a rehearsal studio, and it took us 3.5 hours just to plug the gear together. And we went to the bar after we'd plugged everything together to get a drink. Before we started, the guy thought we'd finished, and we said we've literally only just assembled the stuff, because we had ripped apart our home studios to take down there, and it was just a complete nightmare. So very quickly after that, we realized we needed to be a bit slicker, and we bought into some really good, actually, EMS plastic 19-inch rack systems. And so we were able to assemble mostly rack-based equipment, a mixer and a keyboard, and that became actually, we were very slick. At one point, we were incredibly slick at being able to set
yeah, I'd got these custom mil-spec cables with a connector about that wide that you clamp together and screw in and connect two racks together. Yeah, that made me feel very grown up.
Yeah, they were good. And then we've lost all of that learning, as John said about a moment ago, about what we used to do. We've lost all of that because now everything is little boxes all plugged together on desktops with no physical structure at all, cables everywhere, power supplies coming out your ears. Oh, it's just bonkers now. So it's much worse than it ever used to be.
When was the last time you guys saw one another physically in a room or in a bar or whatever?
The last time we were all together was when we played a concert.
Yeah, so a year ago, I put on this gig here in North Devon, which was Electro Sci-Fest, and it was so I was working with another a guy nearby here who plays a guitar. He's into Pink Floyd and sort of Hawkwind and all that sort of stuff. So he's got kind of really spacey guitar stuff. So he and I did a set together, and we were looking for a rehearsal place in North Devon for Airsculpture. We found this fabulous 14th century chapel in the middle of Barnstaple, which we could hire, but the person that was hiring it said, well, you could hire it, or we could promote you as a band and you could come and play and sell tickets instead. So we decided to sell tickets, and we sold out completely. So it was us. So it was me and Ian as a little band, and then it was Airsculpture and another local band, and we were sort of like 3 bands, and it was fantastic. Really lovely night. And that was on the 29th of February. So that was the leap day, February leap day. And after that, lockdown, 2 weeks after that, lockdown arrived.
Yeah, gotcha. Last night I listened to, I want to bring it to your attention, a couple albums. Traveling Light, I think it's for May 2019, and beautiful. Feel free to elaborate on how that came together, or the level of effort, and so on.
Well, the level of effort was huge because we had to take all our toys off to the Netherlands.
Yeah.
So we were lucky enough to be invited to play over there, and decided. I mean, obviously the name is a bit tongue in cheek. We decided we would take all the toys because we haven't been there for a while. And so it was a fairly major effort to get everything over there. But we had a wonderful time. They are such great guys. They're such great hosts. The audience is wonderful, and it was just a marvelous event. And the music is just, well, it took an hour and a half to play. We got there, we played it. It was a little too long for a CD, and there's actually a piece where, fortunately, maybe, Adrian was having some technical problems, so he's desperately fighting to get his gear to play nice, and we're covering it. But 3 people is really useful because two people can be doing something, and the next person's preparing the next bit, and you can go. But if that third person isn't preparing the next bit, it's really hard to get away from what you're doing. So there was a section that was a little bit long and not quite so interesting. So just basically pushed it all together, and then with a piece of music that fits on a CD, and it's So I wonder if it couldn't be easier. You just turn up and you play it. The other level, there's a lot of work to get to the point you can play for that hour and a half.
Well, that session, we I don't think I took almost everything I owned basically. So I worked out, I think there was something like 42 mains plugs just for me. So I had, I had so many mains extensions and multiple mains connections. It was shocking, literally. There was just a crazy amount of gear. And then of course, multiple mixers and all the other stuff. And then the computer connections and everything. It was the most ridiculous thing, I think, well, certainly I've ever done. And I'm sure I'm never going to do that again. It was just, we had a big transit van, and you know, we've never filled one of those before, but we filled it. It was crazy.
And then when you guys tour, let's say, you know, coming to the United States, very, it's a lot harder. But when you guys do a tour in Europe, how many gigs you need to do to be worthwhile? I mean, with all the expenses, right? One city or you pretty much doing it because you want to do it, and whatever you guys.
Because we love it more than.
The only way the money works out is the sales of CDs feeds back to allow us to waste money on concerts.
It's non-profit basically.
Yeah, but we, you know, none of us make a living from it. It's just doing it for the love of it.
We don't want to. I mean, if you start to make it a business, it makes it much more difficult to even do. I mean, to travel and making money from it. You know, obviously in the US, it's difficult to do that. You're not allowed to do that without a permit. So, and we don't have any intention of making any money. But so it doesn't really cover the costs even for us traveling, but it makes a substantial difference. So it means that we can go and play, and that's fantastic. Into Europe, it was a little bit easier. Maybe it's going to get
yeah, it used to be. Now it's harder.
But I don't think we have any. You know, we would spend whatever we got. If we ever made more money than we spent, we'd find a way of using it so that
it would be embarrassing. We'd have to talk to the tax man, and that's just not worth the effort.
We've never had the intention of being a profit-making thing. So, yeah.
And then you were when you tour in Holland, for example, right? So you will bring a bag or, you know, a suitcase of CD, and you will sell at the end and try to make a little bit of money. You don't get paid.
If we're organized enough to have a new CD.
Yeah. Yeah. It seldom pays the bar bill.
Really? No,
we drink the profits, definitely.
I got you. What about Bandcamp? If companies, a group do right, Bandcamp. Some then sell more than others.
Bandcamp is wonderful. That's where most of the money comes into the band, is through Bandcamp sales.
Yeah, and hopefully we channel it back out again.
We're not that efficient. If we were a business, we would be pushing out an album every 6 months or whatever the market would take, and we'd maximize our profits like that. But
we look at RMI, for example. RMI, you know, are very organized, and they churn out a lot of stuff. And you know, we look at that and think, well, actually, to be honest, we quite enjoy not being like that.
we could do it being a little bit better, but mostly we do stuff when we think we're ready, and then get the slow, inefficient grinding through.
Yeah, but it's things like artwork and stuff like that that sends, you know, by the time we finally got the audio done, then we go, oh, we haven't got any artwork. That's another year.
Yeah, which is crazy. You've got three of us who are into visual arts in various ways.
Really?
I like doing the layouts myself, so it should be so easy, but somehow never really works out.
Yeah, in fact, this last one, I think we might have had a record in terms of generating the artwork. That would have been
it's pretty cool.
That was super happy, but I still haven't sent off the CD to get manufactured. So
I got you. The other album was Vanishing Point, and I think they're a set of three, right? Volume 1, 2, or 3. That's beautiful as well. That's what I was listening last night, and very good stuff. Have you guys done well in terms of selling that one more than the Traveling Light, or?
I think it's hard to tell without looking at the numbers. I think the Traveling Light's it certainly had the biggest initial sales. But I can't remember where it ended up, because everything slowly trickles out. Things obviously sell when they're new, then you get just slowly ongoing. And I can't remember they're not wildly different though.
I mean, the really nice thing about Bandcamp is somebody discovers you, and then they just kind of go, well, I'll have them all then. You know, they'll buy 5 albums, you know, buy 6 albums or something, you know, and that's wonderful. You know, you realize somebody has just kind of come across you, and that's great.
Yeah, and then some bands have like a deal, buy all my, whatever, $10 each, but buy my whole discography for
Yeah, we
50 or 50 or whatever. Right? So
really should turn that on because we've got nothing.
I switched that on my own personal feed, and it instantly generated that nobody's bought any single things now. They just buy my discography.
Okay, that's interesting. I mean, when they introduced that feature, my thought was, well, most people who like us already know us. So how many people are going to be in that situation where they don't already have something? But yeah, I guess they are out there. We should help them.
Worth doing. I think it's worth doing, and because it's a considerable discount, I think the standard is 40% off. That's what it is, and
yeah.
And so if you haven't got a huge number of albums, actually, you might as well just buy them all.
I'll click the button.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Any of the music is in vinyl, besides being media and CDs, or any.
Nah.
Well,
we keep talking about it. We were talking about these, and we were talking about it now, and obviously things have changed about how it's perceived now. I think
I think it's a certainty we're going to do it. Definitely, we're going to do that. We just haven't got our act together yet to do it.
Yeah, as usual. And it's also picking the music we want to do on it, because it's not like we're going to be releasing everything on vinyl. This will be a one-off. Do we pick our best stuff that's already out there? Do we pick something new, especially for the vinyl? What does it need to feel like? It feels like it needs to be something special. So yeah.
It also needs mastering. So I think we might need to get somebody in to master that, because it's a different stuff.
Yeah, we could need some help. Or it seems that, there are rules you can follow. We may be able to do it ourselves, but again, that's another problem to be resolved.
So if, let's say, you were to decide that you are going to be releasing whatever, the best of, or Traveling Line, or the best of Vanishing Point, it still need to be remastered in order to make it into a vinyl?
Yeah.
We would definitely have to do that, because the bass end in particular is an issue for records, and we do tend to have a heavy bass going on through stuff, so we probably need it to be EQ'd at least and compressed to work.
Yeah, you probably need to take the bass and center it, because if you've got too much stereo bass, then that could screw things up. Physically you've just got big wobbles in your vinyl and the needle jumps out.
So you will need to pay for that, and then whatever, doing something minimal like 200, a series of 200 record, right? It's a lot more expensive, right? So in order to make your money back, right?
Like the concerts, it would be something we do because we want to do it. We will fund it off money we've made previously, just because it's a thing we want to do.
Yeah. I think Adrian mentioned that it's more of a vanity thing, really, vinyl, for us anyway. But for a lot of artists, it's becoming a mainstream way of selling now. It seems to be the way to get your stuff out, interestingly.
I do, believe it or not, and I mentioned that to Adrian, I like touch things. I like physical things. So I have here in the back, and in this home, fourth floor, I have music in all different floors, if you will, and I like to touch things. I open the album, and smell it, take a look at the picture. The same with the CDs, as opposed to just buying something and then, hey, I don't like the 10 seconds. Oh, the next song. I like to open up and sit in front with a beer and sit in front of my turntable and listen to stuff, right?
And that might be the biggest problem for us, actually, because if we did do an album like that, then the artwork becomes suddenly so much more important, and we might end up scrapping over the artwork next. Because we're all, as John mentioned, we're all kind of into the artwork side of things. We're all, one way or another, we're all kind of quite arty in that way.
Well, Adrian, you're into photography. For you, will be very easy to select something in a couple of afternoon, and John do the drawing or the font or whatever. I don't know.
It would have to be gatefold for all of us to get a look in, I think. That's the cost again.
Well, there's basically, if it's just a single slice, then it was only a front and a back. But if we have an open up one, we could have a side each. We fight over the bit in the middle.
Yeah. So what is coming up for you guys in the future? So we don't, assuming that by, I don't know, September, September things will open up, and you can. Are you guys trying to book some gigs already, or
well, we've got something that we were, because last year we did we were supposed to do the October visit to the States, to Philly with Chuck, but we put that off to this year, and we've just put that off to next year now, so that will be 2022. But I haven't told these two guys, but because I'm getting married in July, we're having a celebration, and it would be a real shame if we couldn't play something at that. So that might actually end up being our next gig.
that sounds like a fine idea.
Yeah, nothing too big, because most of the people that will be there would just not understand it at all. But there's a little contingent that I'm hoping it will come along. So the RMI guys and the Ian and so on. We might do a little thing, but we'll see. But I'm definitely planning to have music for that. So live music. We've got a number of local musicians who are going to play for us. So
and you mentioned Jan Barry. Yeah. I interviewed him like 3-4 months ago. He's a very nice person too,
yeah,
he is.
We've known him. Well, I guess we've known him. We've been, in and around the areas with him for a long time. But we over the lockdown, we were able to sort of get a bit of a connection, which was really nice. So, and in fact, he came to WOMAD one year when Clear and I were there, and so we were able to spend a bit of time with them at WOMAD, which was wonderful.
It's nice because we first saw Ian play in 1983, or two of us did. So we've known him musically forever. So the fact he's become a friend is really nice. It was good once we kind of got established to have those barriers dropped a bit. Suddenly, people who we were just fanboys of, you can now talk to friends.
And Jan also, he's a very good businessman. He does a lot of different things. His music, he promotes other people, their own record label. Yeah. He's, I think, put together, if I remember correctly, like a library of music where he can sell it to television or theater, whatever. They use it and pay for.
He's been good. He's been good at that, and it's almost like Stars End has become like an outlet for Din now.
yeah.
There isn't an episode without some Din music on it these days now, which is great. So, and he's worked really hard to get to that position. I know he's put a lot, he's put a lot of effort in to get to where he is. So, that's not a small thing. It's been over many.
No, it takes a while. And we Chuck, that's called the Gathering series. What's the name?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so the Gathering series at church.
And then it happened every September, October, or how the?
I think he does it at the beginning of the year and also at the end of the year. But we've been there 5 times.
Yeah, sort of it misses out the summer because it's unpleasantly hot in that period, so people don't go out. They're either on vacation or they're hiding in the air conditioning. People just don't come to it. Obviously, the winters are too wintry, but there's a sweet spot in the spring and the autumn, or in the fall. Where it's nice enough, and so he runs probably about 10 concerts a year, maybe 8 or 10.
And then how many groups or band participate in that, whether in the early in the year or the one in the fall?
Well, each evening usually has 1 or 2 acts, and we tend to play. I don't think we've had support for any of them, have we? But
no, I think
a lot of them there's 2 acts. But a few, there's like us, you play both 2 sets. So it's been over the years, because it's been running for a long time now.
Well, next year is going to be the 30th anniversary, so hopefully we'll be there for the 30th celebration next year.
Yeah, that's cool.
And it's going to be. He lives in Philadelphia? Is that correct?
Philly, yeah.
Yeah.
Philly, yeah. It's like 3 hours from here where I live, and
We came down to DC last time we were over there.
We did.
You like it?
Sooner. Yeah. Chuck used to be a postman, so he works a lot, and he's good at it. So it was a bit tiring. My boots were broken, so I got sore feet, and I was grumpy. No, it's nice. I mean, obviously, first visit we did the obvious things. We went round the National Mall, Smithsonian, the really, really boring stuff, and then some nice food. So it was a bit of a rapid trip, but it was a nice day. It was a good day.
Yeah. Here, the reason I'm here, I don't live in Washington D.C. I live in the Washington D.C. area. I live in the border in Virginia. So I'm like 20 minutes to Maryland and then 15 minutes to Washington DC. And there's too many venues here. Unbelievable. Every band come to this area. So everyone, all, you know, from Pink Floyd to, I don't know, Kate Bush, if she were to come back, or Alison Moyet, or the Pat Bennett, or Blonde, they go, all of them are electronic music people, guys, come here as well. So it's great venue to, a great area to live here in the United States.
It's an amazing area, that in that,
Oh, yeah.
that East Coast zone where you've got so many world-class cities, world-sized cities, is astonishing.
Yeah, yeah. If I did have, you know, now with the COVID, you cannot do it, but if I did have enough time and money, and I could, you can see a show every night, if you will. No, not all the good one, right? But I try to see like 30 shows a year.
Wow.
And there are, some of them are going to small venues, you know, the expensive one, you know, Peter Gabriel be here, or Phil Collins, or Fleetwood Mac. Those are more expensive, but very good names, decent band for, I don't know, $40 or so.
Okay.
So it's affordable for everybody, you know, it's not expensive.
Good.
One of the things that always surprises me as a thought about America is just because the cities are so huge, you can be young, upcoming musician in NYC particularly, and you can build a career gigging around the metropolitan area. You know, you can do different gigs every night in different places and build an audience just without leaving your home city, which is amazing.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You couldn't do that, let's say, in London. Will it be possible?
Not really. London it's kind of on the borderline, but yeah, you as soon as you're trying to get an audience, you have to leave. You have to tour the country, or again, recently tour Europe.
Yeah, and the pricing structure of all the, you know, the Royal Albert Hall, the O2, I found it very, very expensive compared to. Well, you need to compare it, not somebody coming from the United States, but compared to the average income per person in the city that you live in, right? So, you know, whatever. A show, Eric Clapton at the Royal Albert Hall, I don't know if the minimal, the less expensive is £100 or whatever. That not many people could afford that, you know.
But well, except you can sell it out for several nights. But I think they are a bit of a special case, though. Those really big established names, the people who want to see them are a bit older and have money, and they will pay that much. You can still go and see a great gig for £10 if you don't go to the Royal Albert Hall.
Really? Yeah, yeah. Well, Pete is a software engineer. He's making the good money, so he could. No. Here, people software here, people get paid well here. Computer science pays well here in the United States. If you have, I work in the cloud, Pete, so if you have cloud experience, you do okay.
Yeah, I know. I don't work in the cloud, but I do work in on web-based stuff. So yeah, it's not bad. It's not.
I'm building my Azure experience, so we can talk.
Oh yeah. You like Azure better than AWS?
I do actually. AWS reminds me of Oracle and Java in that it's really powerful, but it's horrible to use. Microsoft are kind of catching up in some places, but it's nice to use.
Yeah, Microsoft have spent a lot of money in the cloud, and they are growing like crazy, you know, and the stock is going up.
This is not where we should take this interview, but man, we found some weird things in Azure. It's like we wanted to use their distributed database, and it was impossible. We went to visit them because the UK base is in Reading, so we went and had a day on the campus, and we were trying to do this, migrate our databases, and it was really expensive and performed terribly. and we're trying to import data, and it's throttled, so you can't import data. And so this quite expensive instance is performing worse than just a bit spinning up a VM and putting our own copy of Mongo on it. So it's just pointless.
Wow.
And their response is, well, okay, you're doing it wrong. You need to, we charge by collection, so I have fewer collections. Well, no, we don't want to do that. It's not how our software works. You should do what our software wants, not the other way. So, but when it's good, when it works, it's fantastic.
Yeah, yeah. I have worked in both, right? So plus and cons of every technology, like it's more than anything else. And that's all I have, guys. I hope that where you guys can buy your music, besides Amazon, or it's just Bandcamp at this moment, or your website. You can get your stuff on the website, right? Yeah.
Not for sale.
No, it's just out-of-date information on the website.
But yeah, Bandcamp. But not just Bandcamp. There's also some of the earlier stuff around.
And yeah, the specialist retailers carry it. So Groove in the Netherlands, CDS in Scotland.
Synth Music Direct still exists. That's where you can get our really early stuff.
Yeah, we tried to get someone representing us in the States, but unfortunately that didn't work out. They just wanted too big a cut, and it seemed unreasonable. All we'd want to do is not have to mail discs out. So yeah, really worth the difference.
Yeah, definitely. I wanna get. We'll get in touch with Adrian this afternoon. I would like to get some of the album. I mean, if you can sign it, and I pay for the shipping expensive, or maybe if I end up going to see Eric Clapton, I doubt it. My wife doesn't want me to go with all the bucks. Go with stuff. I don't know, but I will.
Who knows what's possible? But yeah, we'll buy you a beer.
Yeah, let us know when you're coming over.
Yeah, we'll let you know. And good luck with your wedding, Adrian. I hope everything works out.
Yeah.
It's a big decision, man.
Yep, we had our -1 anniversary in July last year. So we're coming up to zero hour, hopefully. Yeah,
I'm in touch with Chuck, but let me know when. Yeah. The gathering, or when you end up playing here in DC, in Washington. I mean, in United States. I would love to go and see you guys and have a beer. After.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I mean, if you're interested in such things, we've also done quite a few on our performances while we've been over in the States. So we could maybe consider doing that if that works for you.
Yeah, no, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I wanna. Yeah, for me, I like to see band, right? So nowadays if you don't have money, I suppose you can watch everything on YouTube. But for me, the audience, talking to the musician afterwards, and buying the music or the vinyl CD, and getting an autograph, taking a picture, that for me is part of the experience.
Yeah.
As opposed to, I don't know, buying stuff from Klaus Schulze and Amazon. I would never talk to the guy. It would be. Any of you like soccer or football?
No, not really.
Not really. Wow. No, even you, Pete. What about?
No. I don't think electronic music and soccer goes together.
Really?
I could think of some examples who may disagree, but yeah, none of us are really much into sport anyway at all. We've got a few slight interests, but
I got you. Yeah. Well, it was very fun talking to you guys. Good luck to you. I hope you end up releasing new music, and hopefully things will go back to normal in society, and you can tour. And I hope to see you here in the United States or in the UK, in the near future. And I will be sending Pete a link to the interview and upload it to the website. You can post it to your social media, whatever you guys do. And definitely I want to buy your music. Very good stuff. And thank you very much, guys. Good luck to you, man.
Thank you. Great to talk to you.
No problem.
Bye.